So I've just received a stone pack yesterday as a gift from someone, which some of you may have seen I made a YouTube post about. And first, just so it's clearly mentioned in this video as well, if you were the generous giver, please contact me or let me know in the comments so that I can thank you directly myself. This will certainly have big impact on my progression, so thank you very much. And so originally I hadn't planned to make another update video until next week, and according to a poll I made, every second week seems to be the favored, or weekly. So in the future, if something big happens, I may do weekly, but then generally do bi-weekly. But so after getting the stone pack, I felt it was important to share the progress and considerations I had, as this has both sped up things and led to additional considerations and changes for my tower. And before getting into the exact progression updates, I'll talk a little bit about my upcoming tower transition and plans. If you want to skip ahead though, then just jump to the time shown on screen. But so I first want to give some additional context to give you a better understanding of the future transition that my tower will go through. Some of you may have seen my community post last week that shared more about this, but I also want to take the time to explain a bit here in detail before going through the rest of the update, as then the various other progression and focuses will make more sense. So as you should know by now, I love orb devil farming, and it's been key to my progression these 5+ months, and it's amazingly AFK friendly for me, where I more or less just start a run and let it go now. And so Orb Devil has been great for all kinds of reasons for me. But soon now I'll be reaching somewhat of a plateau in terms of how far Orb Devil can take me. Or at the very least that new strategies open up that can progress me further and faster. And for me, that transition is from Orb Devil to Orbless, which is basically what I'm gradually preparing for at this stage, but not ready for just yet. I'm not going to go in detail about Orbless in this video, and probably instead will cover a video on that in the future once I can do it effectively. And there are countless variations of Orbless, but it's basically an umbrella term for when you juggle enemies with bullets and seek to kill them in your spotlight beam and don't use any orbs. This is a very simplified description, and the variations to Orbless depends on what ultimate weapons you have and so on, but the general starting point is usually what is known as bullet Orbless, which is what I just described, and where you add more damage later on in the run, such as chain lightning, spotlight missiles, and so forth. But anyway, so I have already tested Orbless runs thoroughly, and it is not at all worth it just yet for me. It gives me less coins over the course of a run and involves a crazy much more amount of micromanagement compared to what I'm used to in my Orb Devil runs now, because you gotta carefully adjust your damage to trim the right amount of enemies. Too little damage and your coin income drops massively, or too much damage and your coin income also drops massively. But once I can be able to have my golden tower and my black hole permanently up with ancestral multiverse nexus and ancestral galaxy compressor, then I will make the transition to Orbless and move away from a sync focus to a focus on uptime. But I'm not there yet, and there are a few things I need in place, but which basically boils down to that I need the uptime for my black hole and golden tower to be a little more. And there are a few ways to get there, all which require me to get one more copy of Galaxy Compressor so that I have it as ancestral and with ancestral substat for package chance. The first approach, which is the most straightforward, is to get 1 level in golden tower duration and 3 levels in black hole duration. That would mean that these would be 48 seconds duration each and permanent. However, that requires a lot of stone investments as black hole duration gets expensive. The second approach is to get 2 more levels in black hole duration and to nearly max the package chance lab, level 18 of package chance, which gives 81.6%. That saves me a lot of stones, though there is no certainty at all of when I will get a copy of Galaxy Compressor, so investing in black hole duration instead of golden tower duration and labbing something that may not really have an effect at all feels a bit weird, but maybe a worthwhile gamble. And the third approach is to get lucky and get golden tower cooldown, ancestral substat, or something similar, so that my sync time is 69 seconds for multiverse nexus. Then I don't need any stone investments at all. Or say, if I get lucky and get the substat, then I can even make it work with Mythic Galaxy Compressor if I increase my black hole duration 2 more seconds and have my package chance at 81.6. So with all this in mind, I hope for the second approach, and in order for me to best proceed considering all the prospective approaches that are all outside of my control, I thought the best strategy for me is to lab package chance to level 18, as it will likely be relevant in most scenarios, and then to just save up stones for a while to see what may show up among the substats or if I get a Galaxy Compressor. And thereafter react about when and what to spend stones on. And if I were to be super lucky and get both the Golden Tower cooldown substat and Galaxy Compressor, then the labbing of package chance would have been unnecessary and kinda wasted, but I doubt it will happen, and it doesn't hurt to have a higher chance for tournament anyways. And the reality is that I anyways much rather would have Golden Tower coin bonus instead as my final substat on my Multiverse Nexus. But so yeah, that gives you a bit of an idea of the various considerations. Hopefully all of this was clear and helpful to understand my situation and may give some further context to what I'm currently doing across the board for my tower development and how things may shift quite a bit in the future. The annoying thing is just that I have no control or influence of this, which I've complained about before is such a horrible game design. But oh well, I'll get there eventually. And this whole transition also coincides with me focusing more on damage labs now ahead, which also makes Orbless better and easier to manage for the future. And once I'm set on this transition, then I will lab Golden Bot cooldown and duration more, because sync time will no longer matter and the focus will be on uptime for this as well. Because if Golden Tower and Black Hole are permanent, then I simply just want Golden Bot to be active as much and for as long as possible instead of occurring at a specific time. And lastly, just a quick shout out to Leo9432. But so yeah, the goal has mainly been to save up stones so that I could best react if I were able to get things needed for permanent Golden Tower and Black Hole. But yesterday I got a stone pack as a gift, which led to a much bigger pool of stones saved up. First of all though, as mentioned in the YouTube post, that is a lot of money and could have been spent on so many different things, and so I'm deeply humble. And starting this YouTube channel is and has been all about just helping as many as I can, and I'm learning a lot from you guys as well. And while I did share my account ID in video descriptions, I never did ever expect or dream of ever getting a stone pack. I hadn't even dreamed of getting a minor gem pack. And I'm making my videos as if I enjoy in helping and discussing with you all, and I certainly do not expect in any way to ever get something like this again. Your support through video likes, kind comments, and thoughtful discussions is more than fulfilling already. But once again, to whoever paid for this, thank you. It certainly will help my progress and just gives even more motivation to make more videos. But also don't feel like you ever have to do it again to show your support. Giving a thumbs up on the video and offer supporting comments, if deserved, are more than sufficient to support me and the channel. And I'll talk about stones and planning in more detail once we get to my ultimate weapon. But suffice to say is that this was a big surprise, and that I then had to figure out the best use of that stone. Originally, I had just been saving stones to assess and await, and to peek at my next ultimate weapons. But so then, I suddenly had a lot more stones saved up, which meant I had to change my plans, including considerations of getting a new ultimate weapon, continue to save for a Spotlight 4th beam, chain lightning upgrades, and so on. And once I get to ultimate weapons, I'll talk about these considerations in more details. Phew! Okay, with that out of the way, now let's get into the update and progress since the last video. So for the workshop, there is not that much to report. However, at first, I did do a respec as I was trying Orbless strategies, and I also wanted my range and thorns to be back at level 0 for greater flexibility of strategies, which I had maxed while I was AFK running while being on vacation. And as I was respecing, I also divested some coin from health enhancements to attack enhancements so that I could get the attack speed enhancement, particularly for Orbless testing, but also just to be helpful for future tournaments. And with Orbless on the horizon, I was just making the enemy level skips the same or less for health and attack skips, and I will more or less level these in tandem now going forward. Previously it was much more heavy focus on enemy attack level skips, and I had this up to I think 360 and so, and I will gradually build these back up. And then 2 days ago I undevoed again, and the reason for that was twofold. I wanted to compare tournament results of having Orb Devo as a starting point versus having a Blender starting point, basically to see if those initially maxed workshop levels mattered much to the run in tournaments. And the second reason was that I felt ready to do another round of milestone runs to earn some more gems and stones. And so I'll talk more about this in the next section, as I was able to complete quite a lot of milestones. And the last thing that I say about workshop though is that as I'm making more coins, just from a quality of life perspective, I have maxed out max recovery, and I've maxed out wall rebuilding, and I may max more of these later on, such as health and regen, just so I simply don't need to touch them at all anymore. And then I've gotten one more level enemy level skips, which is now 11, And the main focus remains the same as I mentioned in my last video, and that is basically just to continue upgrading the enemy level skips, workshop and enhancements going forward. For milestones, there's been a lot of progression as I was trying to squeeze out some gems from module pulls and some stones. And basically the way I approached most of these are similar to the strategies that I shared in the tier unlock video guide that I created a while ago. So I won't go into too much detail and you can check out the video if you haven't already. For tier 13, I had a record of 1700 and originally I just wanted to do wave 2500, but then my personal schedule suited me better if I just sent it, as then my run would finish basically straight after tournament rewards were released. So I just sent it to see how close I could get to 4500, and as expected I wasn't able to do it fully but got to wave 3700. And with some tweaks I can probably complete this quite soon, though the last waves are obviously the hardest. And then, as we have the Death Defy mission this event, I had to go at tier 16 to unlock card masteries, which meant going from a record of about wave 60 to wave 100. And the main reason I was able to complete this was by successfully skipping a lot of bosses with wave skip. I probably tried 5-6 times before I was able to complete it. Then I felt there was a lot of room for improvement in tier 14, which was just at wave 577 initially. And easily, without much thinking, I got it to wave 900 or so. But the challenge with it in my first attempt is that I didn't get enough perks early on that I felt I needed, and so I would die around wave 900. And so what I had to do was to basically go to a bit extreme lengths of banning all 5 perk commons, including even damage, as I believe that that would help me get the 50-50 trade-off, region trade-off, enough health and region and so forth to push me a lot further in the run. And that worked well, from barely completing 900 waves to completing more than 2000 waves. And for tier 15, I didn't think I was gonna get a new milestone, as I had a record of wave 329, but I got it to 400 plus on the first try. So all this milestone progression and tournament results meant that I had saved up a lot of stones and pulled a lot of modules. So let's get into ultimate weapons next. So first and foremost, almost immediately after the last update video, I decreased the final golden tower cooldown, and thereafter it was all about saving up stones. And with the tournament results and milestone progression, it meant I had saved up about 1200 stones. And then I received a stone pack gift, which took me to 1900 stones. And as shared earlier, the reason for holding on to stones was to assess if I could move to a permanent golden tower and black hole strategy. And with the extra injection of stones, I pondered a long time on what the most impactful next steps would be. And at first, I just peeked at the next ultimate weapon options, which were not as hoped as there was no smart missiles there. Instead, I was offered inner landmines, chronofield and poison swamp. So let me talk you through all of these considerations that then occurred and what I ultimately picked. First of all, I could have spread some stones around to increase my econ. Ultimately though, this wouldn't really have helped my tournament performance, where I hoped to score higher and soon earned keys, so I didn't go down this path. Similarly, I could have put stones into black hole and golden tower duration to be ready for permanent golden tower and black hole, but I didn't want to do that without having ancestral galaxy compressor, as then I much rather just continue doing orb devil hoarding for farming and so forth. Another consideration was to invest more heavily into my chain lightning, and this probably could have had some positive impact on my tournaments. However, since I only have legendary dimension cord and am at this weird situation where ancestral multiverse nexus is actually better for me in tournaments, it felt very backwards to invest in it. But of course, you could flip it around and say that because my dimension core is weak is why I should put more stones into chain lightning, which is a valid argument. But to me, I think part of what I just have to consider instead is that since chain lightning eventually falls off compared to smart missiles later in the game, maybe I need to spend stones in damage towards that instead when the legendary dimension cord is holding me back anyways. Maybe. Anyways, it was not an easy decision to neglect chain lightning. Another consideration was to save up for the 4th spotlight beam, and this I thought long and hard about. 2500 stones is crazy expensive, and being so close to it, maybe I will regret at some point of not getting it. Especially as I won't be earning much more stones anymore from milestones that can give a quick influx in stones in the future. So saving up to 2500 stones will be very painful whenever I may do it in the future. Ultimately, though this would have given me both econ and damage improvement, I decided not to because I felt that it wouldn't give me much immediate benefit to tournaments. And here it was definitely also a psychological factor of it feeling less like progression of doing more of the same versus, say, getting a new ultimate weapon and progressing closer towards Ultimate Weapons Plus. And then, for example, where I can start to focus on Golden Tower Plus. Which leads me to the next considerations, which were the 3 ultimate weapons I could choose from. Poison Swamp, and though it offers some crowd control for tournaments, it wasn't really a consideration at this point. Chronofield, on the other hand, certainly was, and I'm sure many of you will say that I should have gone for this, which I think is fair. A developed Chronofield can have huge impact on Legend tournaments by slowing enemies significantly and the damage reduction and so on, and at some point I will definitely want this. The only issue is that it takes a long time for it to be fully developed with labs and getting the full duration. And because I have limited tournament stone income each week, I don't want to opt for something that will improve my tournaments 2 months from now, but rather something that I think can help my tournament stone income immediately, so that I can earn more stones and invest more stones as soon as possible, to then afford getting Chronofield soon in the future instead. So this all leads me to Inner Landmines, which is what I ultimately opted for. By choosing it, I could immediately get stun for my next tournament, and I could get the labs rolling for rotation and radius. And right now, as I didn't really have any good crowd control for tournaments, and particularly for bosses, I think this will have the most immediate impact for my tournaments. And it will be interesting to see in the tournament tomorrow if I can notice any immediate impact. And another benefit with Inner Landmines is that it is cheap to get to a decent state. Right now I don't have any stones in it, but the only really thing I will get in it for a long time is just to get the quantity to 6, which cost 485 stones in total. Originally, I had hoped for Smart Missiles as the ultimate weapon so that I could start a transition to a damage build with that, but I didn't get that as an option. And actually, it may turn out okay because as I picked Inner Landmines, I think my next goal is simply to save up for Smart Missiles immediately next, and by then I should have finished my Inner Landmines labs and can focus on Smart Missiles fully. And that is the reason, by the way, that I haven't upgraded the Inner Landmine quantity yet. I want to first try a tournament with just the 3 mines and then see if I want to get it to 6 immediately. If I feel like it's okay to keep it at 3 for a little while, then I will save up the stones and get Smart Missiles first. But if I feel like I need 6 mines from the get-go, then I will upgrade the Inner Landmines quantity and thereafter save up for Smart Missiles. And just so it's mentioned as well, Chronofield is also a consideration here, and it may be what I pick ahead of Smart Missiles. But so let's see how the tournament goes tomorrow. And if you have any thoughts on all of this, let me know in the comments. And equally, let me know if you think I made a good decision or a bad decision. So Smart Missiles is likely the next goal personally, though this could change for a number of reasons. Maybe I realize I want Chronofield first, maybe, or maybe I get the final Galaxy Compressor and need to invest some stones into getting permanent Golden Tower and Black Hole. Maybe. And I think the path may possibly be to just unlock all the ultimate weapons next and get Golden Tower Plus. And of course that sounds a lot easier in theory than it actually is, because it does involve a lot of stones. Or maybe I'll stay with Smart Missiles or Chronofield and develop that first, maybe. There's still a lot of unknowns, so we'll see what the future got in store for stone investments. And I'll likely share some updates in community posts along the way until the next progression video update. And although I've been eyeing the Wave Accelerator card mastery at some point for farming and econ, I think I've come to the conclusion that I will wait on that until I get these other things sorted and am in a better state for tournament performance. But on that note, let me know if you think there are any card masteries you think I should consider early to help with tournaments. Maybe there are some I've failed to consider, maybe. But that leads me to cards. And for cards, I was kinda happy that the card event mission came. So now I'm super close to maxing everything. And I'm happy to have finally maxed the Wave Accelerator. and I just need 200 gems to get it all done. But I'm in no rush in doing that as I want to pull modules. But maybe I finish it before the tournament tomorrow, maybe. I'm also not touching card slots until I get Ancestral Galaxy Compressor, and even after that I'm not sure I'll touch it for a long while as I hope to get more Dimension Core modules as well. But yeah, we'll see. It would have been nice with a few more card slots for tournaments though. And for perks, nothing has changed for perks as I keep using my Orb Devil AFK approach. But for milestones, I've changed this around, of course, such as banning a lot of comments. Then for labs, the focus has been on damage and as mentioned to get recovery packages up and running to prepare for potential perma, golden tower and black hole in the future. And I've continued with lab speed and attack speed. And it was time to get chain lightning up and running more, so shock chance and shock multiplier. And where I've maximized the shock multiplier and stopped at level 14 for shock chance. And then as you can see, miscellaneous other damage including super crit multi and chance, damage meter, super tower, and so on. But most importantly that I've started maxing spotlight missiles. And then as you can see also just one level in Deathwave damage amplifier and one level in Deathwave armor stripping. And again you can see lots of different damage. And then also just some quick levels in wall rebuild, which doesn't really have a major impact for a long while, but I feel like I've encountered some scenarios, including milestone runs, where it would have helped to have it a bit lower. So before I got inner landmines, I leveled it a few levels. And as you may have noticed, I did get one level in golden bot cooldown, just to get it from level 13 to 14, because of the reduced sync time for when I got that final golden tower cooldown upgrade, so that the bot is also at 73 seconds. However, once I go orbless, then I will lab the golden bot cooldown a lot more just to increase its uptime. And then starting last night, the inner landmines, which I'm just getting the stun on for tomorrow's tournament, and I'm just plotting in some radius and rotation labs and got that going. I probably will get these to at least level 15 out of 20, which should take about a week, and then I will reassess if I just go on and fully max them or lab something else. And then I normally nowadays have 4x on all my labs, but because of all the milestone runs that I did and a little gap between two farm runs, it had to be a lot lower today. And then just touching a second on the future, so at some point I consider maybe one more level in core effect bands, as it's expensive to roll for the 4th ancestral stat. And I should probably lab a bit more reroll shards too, but I find it hard to find a spot for it just yet. And soon I'll just max the enemy health skips, which is level 18 out of 20. And importantly, soon I'll start a chatter lab, probably once a slot opens up. Because although I'm not there just yet, I will soon get to a point where I will need to start to shatter. So as for tournaments, I am transitioning to a damage build, but it will take some time to see that damage focus pay off. And especially with a legendary dimension core. And so as mentioned when I talked about workshops, I did want to respec because I wanted to test a lot of different strategies for tournaments considering my current situation. So for example, I tried Orb Devo start with Dimension Core, Orb Devo start with Multiverse Nexus instead, Orb Devo start with Multiverse Nexus and Enemy Balance, Blender start with Dimension Core, Blender start with Multiverse Nexus, Blender start with Multiverse Nexus and Enemy Balance, and so forth. Ultimately, they were all somewhat comparable, but where my Multiverse Nexus clearly outperforms my weak Dimension Core. And I get a lot more health obviously with my Multiverse Nexus, which is still helping me a bit in tournaments. But as the damage scales so quickly in Legend tournaments, there will be a limit to how effective health will be. So possibly at some point, as I get overall stronger, Dimension Core will get more important again, even though I still have that crappy legendary version of it. But right now, sadly enough, Multiverse Nexus is still better, which is kinda crazy. And as for starting the tournament runs as Orb Devo, it was not really any difference, which was nice to see, and remove some of the FOMO I have of potentially doing an undevo every tournament. So sometimes my Blender workshop start would do slightly better and sometimes the same, and sometimes worse. So the fact that I need to upgrade a few more things in my workshop in the run with the Orb Devo start, it doesn't have a big impact in the end. And it likely will have even less impact once I start to max out more of my workshop stats such as health and regen. Overall, as someone who don't buy stone packs, there is a limit to how far I can progress in tournaments. But of course, having received a very valuable stone pack as a gift will have some positive impact. And that I now have an ultimate weapon that can help with some crowd control. It most likely won't be a magical bullet that sees me progress that much though, but hopefully some. And I also know that if I unlock smart missiles or chronofield soon, they too won't necessarily have super immediate gains, as they need to be developed a lot themselves to really take off. But time will tell. And then for events, there is not much to say or cover except to say that I first spent medals to get Golden Bot cooldown down to 73 seconds in the previous event. Then I just saved up medals for the next event to get the themes and background immediately, and thereafter 1 tick in golden bot bonus. And that's really it. I will be gradually assessing and considering when I will get to next bot, which is likely the amplifier bot, but likely I will continue with golden bot for quite some more time, and which is getting really slow and expensive now. And I realized that I hadn't shared my themes and relic bonus earlier in my previous update videos, and some of you have asked how I got a certain multiplier on my tier 10 run and so forth, and the breakdown of that is basically this that you can see on screen. And in terms of my relic bonus, this is what I'm currently looking at. And so both for the theme and for the relics, depending if you played a longer time than me or shorter, yours is likely going to be either higher or shorter as a result. As for modules, I've gotten a copy of Astral Deliverance, so now I have that as Ancestral too, which is nice, and where I've been rolling for bounce chance, attack speed, crit factor and super crit. There's a limit to how much I am rolling for it though, as I want to try to get the substat for Multiverse Nexus that may help me get that permanent, black hole and golden tower, but let me show you how some of the real rolling has gone. And currently I'm staring at this, and I'll try not to repeat myself too much here as I've covered modules quite a bit indirectly already in the video, but my Dimension Core still looks absolutely horrible as legendary and no copies have been pulled, and I'm still waiting for one more copy of Galaxy Compressor. For the Multiverse Nexus, I've tried to reroll for Golden Tower cooldown or similar, but I haven't really gotten anything yet. But I did land on Black Hole Duration that I just keep it on for now, as that may help towards permanent Golden Tower and Black Hole later. But I'm also trying to reroll for better stats. Overall, I've pulled so many modules but not really gotten anything. I did get one more copy of ACP, so now I have that as 1 star. And I've gotten an chip, so that is also 1 star now. But overall, I've been having really horrible module luck. And so yeah, we'll keep praying for another Galaxy Compressor. May the RNG gods be in our favor. And oh, just very lastly on modules, one thing I learned that I wasn't aware of earlier is that you can indeed merge up a module that you use in a run. Maybe you were aware of this already, but I didn't think that was possible. But if you go to auto merge and have available merge you can do for your current modules, you can upgrade it there. But of course you can't do reroll and so forth. But that was anyways a quite nice surprise, and means that there are some additional considerations to pulling modules when available, instead of saving up a lot or only pulling outside of runs. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that. And in terms of gameplay, beyond the testing I've been doing for Orbless and doing my milestone runs, I've continued my super AFK Orb Devo that requires extremely little input. I have gotten my max wavelength up a few hundred waves from 8400 to 8700, and interestingly increased the personal best run from 40 trillion to 50 trillion. And my peak coins per minute from 100 billion to 140 billion, all while doing Orb Devo. The main reason for this increase was the decrease in the final cooldown for Golden Tower, which I mentioned in the last video that I was about to do. And the increase in peak coins per minute is a little bit more random and more of a lucky thing that sometimes occurs at the end of runs. But overall, the farming hasn't really changed. I start a run, upgrade, enemy attack level skips occasionally, eventually later in the run just max my health, wall health, regen and landmine. And that's basically it. Nothing else. Chain lightning and spotlight missiles are turned off the whole run, and no damage workshop upgrades are done at all, as my sync time is so low that it doesn't matter, and it doesn't get me longer in a run. And doing any blender at the end of the run doesn't really matter either, especially because I don't have room to ban the knockback trade-off, so there is no real blender available anyways at the end, as the enemies will keep hugging the wall to a large extent. And so yeah, that's it in terms of overall update. As someone who loves to plan and to be efficient, it is very painful right now that I can't fully map out the way I want to proceed, and instead just have to react to whatever RNG I get in terms of module rerolls and getting new copies of modules. But at least I have a few contingency plans in motion. But with that influx of stones, it has been fun and amazing to get a new ultimate weapon, and so we'll see how that plays out. And I will continue to focus damage labs and get my inner landmine sorted to start to gradually, hopefully, perform better in tournaments and to prepare for future orbless strategies. And then I just have to react accordingly based on whatever else might happen. Very lastly, I want to thank you all for your thoughtful discussions and supportive comments in the videos I've made today. And should you ever have feedback on how you think I can make my videos better, don't hesitate to share such as well. For example, whether you think there's a better order that I should run through when doing these update videos. But okay, that's all. Let's see what I come back with for the next update video. Thanks for watching, see you next time.